Okay, let's begin sitting up, and you can sit on any props that you want so that you can feel comfortable. Let your eyes rest. And find a relatively dignified and balanced posture, so you don't feel like you're working very much to force a posture. You're almost settling into it. And let's notice the breath. Again, bring your attention to the breath. If it seems particularly difficult to keep your attention on your breath, count how many seconds it takes you to breathe, or breathe very slowly, or really notice the sensation most obviously associated with your breathing in the nose, the ribcage and belly, wherever it is. And begin next to practice meta-awareness. So simply find your attention as if you could catch it, and then observe where it goes, how it hops from one thing to the next, and you might even label where it hops to. So maybe you're remembering or predicting, maybe you're rehearsing. And remember, the issue with mind wandering, insofar as attention goes, is that it isn't a problem. Mind wandering is not a problem unless we don't want the mind to be wandering. So let's right away take off the pressure. Give your mind full permission to wander, to go and just do what minds do. And notice it. Notice how strictly or deeply identified you feel with your thoughts. Does it feel true that you are telling the story of your life? That all of the ideas and bits of information, memories, does it feel like they are all you? So as always, we aren't trying to belittle thought or decide against using it. But when you pay close enough and long enough attention to it, you might notice, it might feel a little bit more obvious, that your thoughts don't define who you are, that they are indeed very habitual. So continue to notice what comes up without suppressing and without empowering. whatever it is you land on. So often the question that comes when we meditate for a specific amount of time, or even when we intellectualize these ideas, is if we aren't our thoughts or our story or our memories, then who are we? What's left? The yogis might say connection, union. Studies show that the practice of connection, of cooperation, of this feeling of belonging and interdependence we have on each other, does not have to be transactional. So other people don't have to directly connect with you for you to feel and deepen and strengthen your sense of connection. It can be strengthened by other people connecting with you, and it does, but you can do it by yourself too. And in so doing, grow closer. Something particularly important all of the time, but maybe especially during the season we're in now. So let's shift gears a bit and note, as you consider, as you think, as you go here and there, if you feel like your mental state is one of defense, or one of connection. Now, since we're continuing to not suppress anything, we're continuing to notice and assume, because it's true, that this is just our mind doing what minds do as we think and rattle on about things. We'll continue, again, not to push anything away or to hold anything tightly. But when you find you're preoccupied, struggling, fighting, defending, step back. And kind of allow the idea that the problem isn't really happening in the moment. You don't have to do anything in the moment. You are completely safe in the moment. So perhaps you take a moment, and if you'd like to, you can place a hand to your heart, your belly, wherever you want, and consider either yourself or anyone else that you maybe feel quite deeply connected to. And let's let this have nothing to do with your thoughts about what that person or whatever thinks about you. Nothing to do with it at all. Simply instead take a moment to wish, in a sort of meta meditation, METTA, to wish that person or those people well, to genuinely and fully wish them well. This has actual measurable effects on your physiology. So really, with this space in your heart, so to speak, have some well wishes. The standard metta meditations are may you be happy, may you be free, may you be filled with peace, etc. But have a little bit of time with your face soft, your body at ease, to simply simmer in this feeling of connection. Now let's release the hands back to the legs and go to the breath again. You might start a Ujjayi breath if it's something you practice. We're going to take a bunch of breaths here, depending on how slowly you are breathing. Probably about half a minute or so. And just keep returning to your breath. Anytime it finds you're being a little drained, again, that sense of preoccupation, notice it. You can dismiss it without pushing it away. And importantly, when you do dismiss it, notice if there is the urge to keep elaborating on it, to keep holding on to it some way or another. And again, just let that be. Go to your breath. And if something is really coming up a lot, go to your body. Notice what you feel the most. And then you can task switch back over to your breath whenever you're ready. So the commitment now, because we're going to prepare to move through some asanas, is to really go to the breath. But again, this struggle, the sense of disconnect, our mind, in a sense, trying to look out for things that might be dangerous and then keep us safe. So again, we're not trying to stop it. What a brilliant thing to have. When you notice it comes up, especially habitually, you can remind your body that you don't need it right now. There is no problem right now when you go to your breath. So we are going to investigate a lot of movement in the legs today, particularly in the hips. We'll hit all the body. But let's meet really kind of lazily with the hands to the floor behind us and the feet to the floor in front. And depending on what your wrists and elbows and shoulders like, you might just let your shoulders kind of shrug, your knees knock in towards each other. You can move your ankles around a little bit, or you can be still. And let your eyes open. Notice your breath. So let's feel with the feet not very close to the sitting bones at all. Let's feel the knees drop away from each other a little bit, really easily, again, almost lazily. And just notice what you feel. Then allow your legs to get kind of heavy so they drop down towards the floor. You can do what you like with your shoulders and your arms so they feel comfortable. Now let's bring the knees close to each other and then separate the feet a little bit. So it's okay if your knees don't touch, but your feet are farther away from each other from the knees and your knees are knocking in towards each other. And just take a breath here. Let your legs grow heavy and just sink down towards the floor. Let's do that again, just like before. Really simple, feet close, knees apart. Slow breath, maybe a big breath, because it might just feel sweet to do so. And then separate your feet a bunch, let your knees knock in towards each other. Again, allow your legs to relax. And the feet are only so far apart, the knees are only so close together as feels good. We'll all be different here. One of the things that we're really going to check with is this internal rotation of the hips. So let's keep on playing with it. For now, take your feet, walk them a little bit closer to your sit bones, maybe the length of one of your feet closer. Let your knees open out to the sides again, and you might have to flex your feet to feel better. You might really point them, maybe somewhere in the middle. But notice what you feel in your inner thighs, and see if you can almost lift your sit bones up behind you like you were going into cow pose. You might inhale and lift your sternum up a little bit too. So there's this horizontal external rotation of the hips here. Now let's bring the knees close to each other, wiggle the feet further away from each other again, and we'll all be a little different here. You might have your feet pointed some, they might be really flexed, do what feels best. And when you're ready to, notice if you can release, kind of relax any tension you feel in your legs. But then inhale, feel your sit bones press into the floor, feel the heels press into the floor, maybe the big toe mounds, and then lift your chest up some, and notice again what you feel. And when you're ready to relax your legs, so one more time, let's walk the feet closer to each other, closer to the sit bones, so like we often see in Baddha Konasana. Let your knees open out, and maybe again, lift your sit bones, lift your sternum, look up, see how your legs feel here. And now this might be tricky and interesting. Let's keep the feet as close as possible to the sit bones, but then walk the feet away from each other with the knees close to each other. You might point your knees away from you some. Again, you can adjust your feet to see how this feels. And then go ahead and again, feel like you were initiating a cow pose. So lift your sit bones, press into the floor with your feet, maybe lift your sternum some. And then go ahead and relax. Now let's place the feet to the floor in front of us again and take the hands out from behind us. But when you're ready to, take a breath in, let the knees open, lift your sternum, look up, and you can grab anywhere you want on your legs. And then exhale, bring your knees close, round your back some, drop your head. Inhale, pull yourself forward. And exhale, lean back. Keep on going. Inhale, pull forward. Exhale, lean back. Perhaps let go of your leg. When you're ready to, let's sit up again. If you want to throw in one more cat or cow, go ahead. But then we're going to place the hands anywhere behind us that helps us balance some. Lean back and let the feet hover off the floor, like a modified bridge pose. Now from here, as we did before, except your feet aren't going to be on the floor, you're going to see if you can take your feet away from each other and knock your knees in towards each other. So it might feel a little bit more awkward here, but this is a more active asana, a more active strengthening, more mobility, less stretch. Remember, mobility is often defined as, and it's useful to understand as, flexibility that you can kind of control. So there's strength involved. Let your heels move away from each other. Notice if you're starting to feel a little bit more. Maybe snug, this isn't for everyone, maybe snug your knees a little bit closer to each other, feet a little bit farther apart. And when you're ready to, knees apart, heels close, maybe they even touch. Maybe lift your chest up, and then exhale. Roll back a little bit, let your feet separate. You don't have to round your back if you don't like the way it feels on it. You might continue to sit up straight, but feet apart, knees close, and let's flow a little bit. Inhale, bring your big toes, maybe your heels together, lift your sternum, look up, and exhale, knees close, feet apart. Keep going. Now, come on up to sit, cross your ankles. Let's go into a twist. So you can lift your arms if you want to, but just place your left hand to your right leg, or your left leg, and your right fingertips behind you, and have a couple breaths here. And we'll switch sides. And back to center. Now bring your fingertips wherever you want, really. I sometimes like to have them when I do this by my sides instead of behind me, whatever you'd like to do. But when you're ready, lift your feet. Take them kind of far away from you, and then move your back some. So you might start feeling like a more traditional boat pose here, a little more engaging in your abdomen. Lift your sternum up. And then just like we did before, but keeping the feet away, open the knees. Knees close, feet apart. Open the knees, notice how your legs feel. Knees close, feet apart. Keep going. And remember, you're using your breath as a guardrail. You can keep going back to it anytime you want. You're also using a commitment not to harm as a guardrail. So you can take this deeper if you want to, if it feels manageable to you. But let's cross the ankles eventually. Spend another breath or two in a twist, and it doesn't have to be this twist. It can be any twist you want if there's another one that you're familiar with and prefer. You can switch sides as you're ready. And then last one, come on back to center. And this time, like we did when we had the feet on the floor, have your feet as close as you can to your sit bones. Lean back. You might lower your elbows to or towards the floor. Feet really close to you, but they hover up. Open your knees out, heels close. Feet not touching the floor if you can. And then separate your feet. Bring your knees close to each other, heels close to you. This is the most awkward one for me. See how it feels for you. Awkward's okay. Keep going. Your feet might try to sneak away from you some, and you can do it on purpose if you want to. But it could be interesting to not only keep your heels close to your sit bones, but to keep your thighs close to your belly close to your thighs, your chest close to your thighs. Play with it. Remember, you're changing how much you're flexing your hips by keeping your knees and your belly close to each other, technically by keeping your thighs and your spine close to each other. And you're also changing the degree to which you can internally and externally rotate your hips. So there's a lot going on, a whole lot going on. Let's take a break. Come on to hands and knees. And do what you feel. Downward dog, child's pose vinyasa, some cat cows. I think all of those options could feel really sweet at the moment after doing that fun hip stuff. So go ahead and choose. You can choose a couple of them if you want, but reconnect to your breath. And keep checking back in when it feels like, again, you feel disconnected or quite preoccupied. It's easy and I think wise to argue with the idea that there is no problem. Sometimes it seems a little naive, especially if you've got stuff going on, and who doesn't? But it's more like your rumination, the conclusions that have so little nuance, so much missing from the story. It's often, really often, the case that that's not going to help. And allowing your body and mind not to ignore what comes up. But not to feed into it. Not to feed it, period. Could be useful. And of course, there's the fact that allowing your systems the feeling of assuming, maybe, that there is no problem, that there is nothing wrong, can lead to some really positive effects. And right now, where you are as you're breathing, in your living body, in your incredible mind, there is no problem. There's nothing you have to do. Come into downward dog if you're not there. And again, and again, and again, all of your thoughts are only thoughts. How are you breathing? Inhale forward into plank pose. And exhale, take your right leg out to the right. Ooh, bring it back to center. Take your left leg out to the left. Bring it back to center. Inhale, lift your knees. Lift your low back. Lift the back of the neck. Exhale, lower onto your belly. Maybe the shoulders come down last. Bring the tops of the feet to the floor. And inhale, lift up into Sphinx or Cobra pose or Upward Dog. And when you're ready, exhale back down to your belly. If you want to add a couple of push-ups here, feel free. We're going to meet back in downward dog. Take your time. Let's travel up to the front of the mat within a couple of breaths. You can fold forward when you get there, maybe grab on the opposite elbow and move a little bit. You can nod the head yes and no. Drop your arms. Within a breath or so, let's roll up to stand. And shrug the shoulders, point your nose forward. So we're going to separate the feet, maybe about mat distance apart, and they don't have to be parallel to each other. And when you're ready to, you're going to lean into your right foot, bending that knee, and just let your left leg kind of shift over as your hips move to the right. And then come on back to center, bend your left knee, lean into that leg. You might come onto the big toe side of your right foot, and let's do a couple more. Again, feet not crazy far apart, but you can play with it. Only bend your knees as far as feels okay. And then when you're ready to, let's straighten the left leg, stand up really tall, and then we're going to see if we can roll onto the big toe sides of the feet. The degree to which your body likes to do this is, again, going to be different from mine, but we're going to let the knees bend forward and then knock in towards each other some. So inner thighs moving close. Doesn't matter if your feet are parallel to each other. This is pretty weird. And again, some of you might decide that's not for you, and instead you do a couple more of these, which is great. Or maybe just hold each for a little bit longer. Otherwise, again, knees moving in towards each other. As much space as feels good between your feet as long as there's no pain. Remember, if this is different, but there's no pain, you're good. Just keep paying attention. Remember, the goal isn't to suffer through. Maybe allow your legs to drop a little bit more. And then go ahead and stand back up. That's the only time we're doing that, but it's a good indicator. It gives a good bit of data. Go ahead and find your pretty easy mountain pose. Not a lot of work. You might rock around on your feet a little bit. When you're ready to, inhale, lift your arms up and lift your left knee up too. Take a breath in and breathe out. Take that left foot to the right. Go ahead and bring it back to center and then take it to the left. See the resemblance here? Go ahead and bring it back to center and step it back. Find a lunge. When you're ready, step forward, relax your arms. Inhale, reach your arms up, take your right knee up as high as you want to. Focus your eyes. And even in the midst of a lot of work in your body, you can practice giving yourself permission to let this be easier. To stop struggling. Again, even if you're doing 100 push-ups, just the mentality of not being so hard on yourself. Now take that right foot to the left. Take that right foot to the right. Go back to center. Step the foot back. But when you're ready, inhale. And then exhale, step forward, release the arms. We're going to try that a few more times. Arms up, left foot up. You can point the foot or flex it again. Do what one feels best. Now let's take that foot to the right. So the knee is going to go to the left some. Bring it to center. Take the foot to the left. Bring it to center. Step the foot back. Inhale. Exhale, lean into your front foot. Step your left foot forward. Relax your arms. Inhale, arms up, right foot up. I'll show you this angle so you can see a little bit better. So you're going to take that foot and move it over to the left. You don't have to push it to the left, just kind of lift it at the left side. And then back to center and to the right. And back to center. And then go ahead and step that foot back. And when you're ready, step forward, arms down. Arms up if you want to, hands to the hips if you'd rather. Take your left knee up. Take the foot to the right. And you don't have to push it to the right at all. You can if you want to. Bring it back to center. Take it to the left. You don't have to push it to the left, but you can if you want to. And then bring it back to center. Step the foot back. Take a breath in. Exhale, forward fold. Last time. Arms up if you want to. Right leg up. Right foot lifts into the left. To center. Lifts right. To center. Lunge. Step forward, relax your arms. So take a breath in, reach your arms up again if you want to. Take your left knee up really high now, as high as you can get it. You might even grab it with your arms for a second, snug it even higher. Don't let the knee drop. Take your foot to the right again. Take your foot to the left again. Knee up, 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 up. Back to center, step your foot back. And when you're ready to squeeze in with your upper inner thighs, breathe in, and let's do some moving lunges or some kind of split squats. Bend your knees, both of them. Straighten them some or a lot. Keep going. Bend. Straighten. Bend. Straighten. Keep going. Go ahead and bend your knees. Bring your fingertips to the inside of the front foot. Wiggle your back foot back some if it's really close to your front foot. And roll on to the pinky toe side of your left foot and your right foot. Now keep your hands down, especially your left hand, and feel like you were trying to take your right hip and stack it over your left hip, maybe turning your chest to the right. Again, if you want to lift your right hand, you can, but you don't have to. It'll change the degree that your spine is twisting. But everyone, lift your left inner thigh and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze the upper inner legs. If you'd like to lift your head some, your right arm some, go ahead. Look down, lower your fingertips. Center your right foot so it's pointing forward again. And take your time, but step your left foot forward too, and fold. Inhale, lift the back up some. Gaze forward. Exhale, fold. Roll up to stand. Relax your shoulders, point your nose forward. Arms up if you want to, right knee definitely up. And again, we're going to try to keep the left leg pretty straight, the sternum really lifted, but we're going to get the right knee as high as whatever your body can do. Get it up, up, up there. And even if that means that your knee is still lower than your pelvis in space, that's okay. Just lift it as high as your body can lift it. And then take your foot to the left. See how it feels. Then take your foot to the right. And back to center. Send the right foot back, coming into your lunge. So I like to do these up and downs, these split squats, lunge squats, with my feet a little bit closer to each other. You can play with it, but go ahead and see how it feels to push into the floor with all your toes and bend and unbend your legs. Really sink into your breath. Remember, it's not that you have to stop your mind from looking for problems. It's that your mind is built to look for them, to keep you alive. And there aren't any right now. Even if this is difficult. The next time you lower a little bit, bring your hands down to the inside of the front foot eventually. You can wiggle the foot to the left. Put a little more space between your feet if you can, if that feels good. And then you're going to roll so that you're on the pinky toe sides of both feet and make sure everything feels pretty good. Now you could just stay here with your hands down. This is great. You don't even have to lift your hips any higher. If it feels real awkward though, you might snug your back foot in a little bit more. That can feel a little better. And different too on the waist. But if you'd like to try, maybe turning your belly and your chest to face the left, lifting through your hips and squeezing. Everything on the floor is pushing into it, especially the left foot. But squeeze with your legs. Maybe lift your face on your hand, looking up, and breathe. As you're ready, look down. Bring your fingertips down. Wiggle your front foot more to center so you're more comfortable. Step forward and fold. Inhale, lift the back up some and look forward. Exhale, fold again. Come on up to stand. Relax your hands down. I'm going to place my hands to my hips. You can lift them up if you want to. Now we're going to lift the left knee a little bit. So maybe the toes stay near the floor or on it. And then you're going to take your left foot to the right. See how it feels. So the knee is now really close to the floor, as close as you can get it to the floor with the foot up. And now you're going to slide. Your toes might even grace the floor. Slide that foot over to the left and try to lift it again. So again, the knee is going to end up pointing in. The hip rotates in. And your foot lifts to the left. And then when you're ready to, back to center. Lift your knee a little more. So again, depending on your body, maybe it's just a few more inches. Maybe you lift your knee about pelvis height. Take your foot to the right. So feel all this stuff. Notice everything that's happening. There isn't a problem. Connect to your breath. Take your foot to the left. Try not to let your pelvis shift too much, right? So keep your pelvis relatively level so you're not moving your left hip and your rib cage towards each other. Come on back to center. Lift that knee even higher. Maybe snug it up with your hands for a moment, but then let go. And again, take your foot to the right, to the left, to center. Step it back. We're going to do a couple more of these moving lunges or split squats. Whatever you want to do with your arms, let's bend and unbend the knees. And if you've had enough with this and would rather just stay still, that's great too. And again, just because you're not rejecting anything that comes up in your head, just because you're not rejecting any bits of the story, doesn't mean you have to feed all of them. Just keep noticing your breath. This might start feeling a little bit harder. We're going to do a few more. And when you're ready, spin on the feet so you're facing the back of your mat. Left foot's going to face the back of the mat. Might be a good time to just relax. We're headed to warrior two, so if you want to get there now, bend your left knee, open your arms, and breathe. As you're ready, straighten your left leg, spin the feet so they're parallel to each other. And then when you're ready to, place the hands to the hips and take a breath in. Maybe lift your sternum and face. Exhale, fold forward. Resting your hands to the floor. I'm just not doing anything. Notice if it feels uncomfortable or weird or scary to not do anything. Notice if it's even possible to not do anything. Again, keep observing your breath. But then let's bend the right knee and allow the inseam of the left leg to get closer to the floor. You can turn your right foot out some if you want to. And we'll switch sides. Straighten the right leg, bend the left knee, allowing the inseam inside of the right leg to get close to the floor. And then we'll straighten that leg too. And when you're ready to, turn so you're facing the front of the mat. Let's take a little break. Step back. Downward dog, vinyasa, or child's pose. If you'd like to take a vinyasa, shift into plank pose. You might do a push-up or two. You might never do a push-up for the rest of your life, and that's okay too. But lift up into a back bend. If you're still moving through your vinyasa, you have a few more breaths to relax however you want. If you want, before we do the other side. Let's come back into downward dog. Travel to the front of the mat and fold. Inhale, lift the back up some, give your belly room to move. Relax and fold. Come on up to stand. Again, you can do what you like with your arms, which will change what you feel in the back, maybe in all of the core, in your legs. But you're going to lift your right knee up just a little bit. Maybe some of the toes graze the floor. And you're going to take as much as you can, of back bending and forward folding out of your spine. So you feel like you're mostly in a mountain pose. And then you're going to take that right foot to the left. Again, a little is enough. You're not moving the foot to the left so much as lifting it in the left direction. But you can shift it over to the left some if you want to. And then we'll take it to the right. Again, let's try not to hike the right side of the pelvis. Just take the foot to the right so the hip rotates inward. To center, now we'll lift the knee a little bit, depending on the person. Maybe you've got your knee hip height. Take the foot to the left. Now it's harder not to let the hip hike when you take the foot over to the right, but don't let your right pelvis lift up. You might almost feel like you're trying to take the right side of your pelvis and shift it down a little bit, so there's a slight compensation. Back to center, lift your knee higher, maybe pick it up and lift it higher, but then let go of it. Take the foot to the left, up in the left direction. Take the foot to the right. Try not to let the right pelvis lift up. Keep it level with the left. Back to center, send your foot back. So remember, we're doing a bunch of these. You can hold the lunge so it's still, or you can go up and down. It's up to you. But I've talked a bit about connection, a bit about having this understanding of how the brain looks for problems. So as you go to your breath, keep dismissing. Any and everything that doesn't serve you, that doesn't bring more peace. Couple more. Again, notice your brain is always looking for things to fix. They don't have to be there. It'll find something. And you don't have to make it important. When you're ready, turn your feet. Get the right foot to face the back of the mat. I need a little mini break. You can go into Warrior 2 now if you're ready. Bending the right knee. Arms out. Just a few breaths here. We'll straighten that leg. Turn the feet so they're parallel. Interlace the fingers behind the back. When you're ready, knuckles down, sternum up, look up, and exhale, fold forward. As you're ready, release the hands towards the low back and then towards the floor. And again, we're going to bend and unbend the knees, maybe holding it for a little bit. You can turn your feet if you need to. Doesn't matter how close you get to the floor. And then let's turn the left foot to face forward, just briefly, and step back, downward dog. Inhale into plank pose, exhale to your belly. Cobra pose, breathe in, breathe out, come down. Breathe in, come up. Breathe out, come down. Keep going. And then when you're ready, lift up, but then see if you can adjust how high you lifted to compensate for what it would feel like were you to lift your hands off of the floor. So for me, I would definitely put my belly down. I might adjust what's happening with my shoulders and shoulder blades so my back feels better and more engaged. And then go ahead and let your hands float up. You might even turn your palms up if that feels nice on your wrists. And breathe. Reach your feet, like the action of reaching your feet made your legs longer, and then lift your legs up. Reach your arms back in space. If it feels like a bit much, put your fingertips to the floor. If you'd like, lift your arms. You can even interlace your fingers behind you and lift them. Feel as though you were lifting the right and left arm evenly, the right and left leg evenly. And come on down. Roll onto your back. And scoot your heels close to your sitting bones and then lift your hips up for bridge pose. Maybe again you interlace the fingers underneath you. Breathe. Come on down. And again, notice if, and you can close your eyes, notice if you're continuing to experience your mind looking for problems. Now, I promise you, paying attention to your attention like this is not going to make you worse at solving problems. It will have the opposite effect. But notice how you can save and maybe even accumulate time and energy by not feeding into the constant search. Go to your breath. Now let's separate the feet and let the knees knock towards each other. Some of you might wiggle your feet even further apart. Play with it. Again, our legs are all a little different here. Now, when approaching something like Virasana, we often pay attention to stretching out the quadriceps and the psoas, but this internal rotation of the legs can also help with a position like that. So if you want to try to scoot maybe one foot at a time to the top of the foot to the floor and just see how it feels. Again, all the work we did on internal rotation could help with that. Don't do anything that hurts. We're going to stay here in a relatively relaxed and curious position. So we're feeding curiosity, not problems. We're feeding curiosity. Where do the sensations you feel happen right now? Where do they travel? If you did that half Virasana with a leg, try the other leg. If you had your knees close and your feet apart, maybe try feet apart. Feet close and knees apart, just switch it. And let's bring the knees in and come on up to sit. Now, one of the other cool and kind of sneaky things playing with internal rotation can do is actually help you feel a stretch in your hamstrings. Can you believe it? Even more. So let's stretch the legs forward. For now, we're going to point the feet. Bring the fingertips behind you. If you want, you can kind of scoot your legs forward so you feel your sit bones kind of more firmly on the floor. You don't have to do that. But if you want to, go ahead and take a breath in. And when you're ready to, fold forward. Again, feet pointed, not aggressively. Slow down your exhales. Now let your feet relax. And then slowly, maybe one at a time, flex your feet. Again, not aggressively, just flex your feet a little. It really is not so important to go to the maximum stretch here, to the point where you feel you have to struggle a little bit to push through it. Just flex your feet until you feel a little stretch, a little bit of pulling, and then go to your breath again. Come on up. Let's lie down and do a little twist. An eagle pose twist might feel good. Anything you want to do, but if you'd like to wrap your legs in any place that feels good in your hips, please go ahead. And have a couple of breaths. And come on back to center, switch sides. Again, any twist you want. You don't have to have your legs crossed, you can just stack them. And let's go into Shavasana. If you want to go into Happy Baby first, maybe reach in between your knees and move your feet a little bit, feel free. And then stretch your legs out. Put a blanket on if you want to. Maybe have a double breath in and a really slow breath out, feeling your body settle. So the human ability and need to connect and to cooperate and communicate is exceptional. It is really one of those things that makes us a little bit different from the other animals. It's not just that connection feels so good, it's that we fully and completely need it to thrive. And again, it does not have to be transactional. You don't have to get it back in order to increase your feeling of it. You might increase your feeling of it by watching other people connect, or by having another person connect with you or your pet. Absolutely, those things matter too. But you can simply, in your Shavasana, strengthen your own feeling. All the time. Especially, perhaps, in the season we're in. And when you find that you're telling a story where you feel the preoccupation, the dissatisfaction that comes with defense, that comes with the struggle of wanting something that's not happening, appreciate that that is our brain doing what it had to do and has to do to survive. And just because we notice it's happening doesn't mean we have to struggle, doesn't mean we're unsafe. And you always have your breath. And you can always foster that sense of connection. Sending blessings, quiet, silent ones that you'll never tell anyone about, no one will ever know about. Send them to yourself, send them to people you care about. But again, foster. Now we're going to come out of Shavasana soon, but let's linger for a little bit longer on this sense of connection. Perhaps committing to tapping into it, reminding ourselves before walking into a store, perhaps, before partaking in an argument, when you start feeling the little fire start to light, before considering what you feel about a stranger. Can you remind yourself of how important connection is? If you want to move around or stretch or take a deep breath before you roll onto your side, feel free. If you'd like to stay resting for longer, feel free to turn off this video, and thank you. If you'd like to sit up on the sooner side, go ahead. You might place the hands gently on the lap, on the belly and the heart, whatever you want. And again, feeling our deep dependence and connection on and to each other. And then have a moment to let the smoke kind of clear. Let everything go quiet. Let your hands drop. And simmer in the feeling that there is no problem, that you are perfectly safe in this moment. And if you'd like to fold forward, take the hands behind you. Have a breath in, and go ahead and fold. And thank you very, very much, everybody. And happy Saturday, or happy whatever day you're doing this.